England is canonical.
England is canonical. Possibly
Guillotines.
Shakespeare. Yeah, guillotines.
Divorce is canonical in the Pokemon world.
The Anglican religion. Like, there's a lot of implications of King Henry.
A lot of implications.
Yes. Hello and welcome back to Kill A Delibird, the premier Pokemon Rewatch anime podcast, where I am the guy who doesn't know a lot about Pokemon, knows some things about Pokemon, but loves to bring in literature, manga, TV, movies, video games, etc. And we have my ride or die homie, Pokemon expert, Pokenerd extraordinaire, Kellan, on the podcast as well. Kellan, how's it going?
You know, you keep referring to this as the premier Pokemon podcast. I hate to tell you, but the premiere of this podcast was 33 weeks ago.
I meant premier in quality, like Premier League.
Shut the fuck up. That doesn't work with my joke.
Yeah, wait, it's too dated. That's what you're saying. I only could have called it premiere once.
Yeah. First episode, and that's it. That's all you get.
Well, every episode is a premiere to a new side of us. You know, I hope that a listener meets a new Graham and Kellan every kind of episode.
I think they're meeting the exact same Graham and Kellan every week, and they're just like, who the fuck are these guys?
Well, we're multifaceted.
Why am I listening to these
You're a
people?
complex individual.
Am I?
Relatively no, but I think all humans are complex. You're simpler than some, and I mean that as a compliment, but more complex than others.
That's fine. I'm fine.
You're
with
more
that.
complex than Draco Malfoy.
He's
not real. So
I don't think I'm as much of a dick as he is. I would hope not.
No, but complexity and dickness are like two independent dimensions.
That's true.
You're more complex than Gary. Although your friend Curtis last week called you Gary. How are you feeling about that?
That was a funny moment. I'm good with it.
That was
For the
funny.
content. It's all about the content.
It's all
I care
about
about.
the content.
It's all about the content.
Well, speaking of content,
we got a big one.
Yeah, you want to jump into this? You don't really know what's happening yet, but you will right away.
Graham's bit this week is a very different kind of bit, and he told me it's going to run about 15 minutes or so, so we're just going to roll right into that so this doesn't bloat the podcast too much.
Yeah, we'll aim for the same amount, but this is sort of an extended research-based bit. So for first-time listeners, we review episodes of the anime, we go through and we have some segments associated with that. We are doing episode 68, The Evolution Solution, and episode 69, The Pi-Kahuna today. Nice. Before that, we usually do like a little random list of things, some banter. For this week, what we did is I got the free 7-day trial to newspapers.com, owned by ancestry.com. And what I did is I pulled newspapers between 1997 and 2000 in the United States and Canada. And I read through a whole bunch of newspaper clippings. I searched for articles that had Pokemon in it, and then articles that also had words like evil or Satan or stuff like that. So for those of you who weren't alive in the 90s, Pokemania, as they called it, was this huge trend in the late 90s, lasted for a couple years, where Pokemon fandom like just emerged out of nowhere, basically, in North America, and people were obsessed. And it created this sort of fervor on playgrounds where kids would like trade cards and then like notoriously get in fights over cards. And parents like did not understand what was going on. And this led to a lot of, especially like right-wing media, to basically think Pokemon was like the devil and controlling your kids. I've been kind of fascinated with that rhetoric since like now, those of you who are familiar with the Pokemon fandom and fans of Pokemon for a long time, like that sounds just wild, right? Like it's such a weird reality to imagine.
It's so stupid.
It's so strange. And so I wanted to see what kind of strange, things were being said. So here are excerpts, pieces, some of them full, 6 articles from newspapers that I found from that time. So we're going to get into it, okay?
Right.
All right, number 6. Pokemon makes your kids drug-dealing, sexually promiscuous vandals. This is an opinion piece written in to the Baltimore Sun in Maryland, Baltimore, October 30th, 1999. This is from one Charlotte Considine in Glen Arm, Maryland, who says, Pokemon may provide some harmless lessons in trading, but these cards also cause harsh competition, disappointment, distraction from academic activities, and expenditures that some families can ill afford. She then says that the cards promote materialistic values, that children basically learn how to value possessions over people. And she ends this saying, if parents cannot say no and provide positive diversions when children are young, how will they cope when kids become teenagers and must be stopped from using drugs, being sexually promiscuous, and engaging in vandalism and violence? There you had it, folks. Pokemon cards make your kids drug dealing whores.
What a fucking stretch.
Oh, yeah. These are all stretches.
Charlotte's arms must have really hurt after that one.
She's Stretch Armstrong. She's Monkey D. Luffy. She's Dawson. I talk about those characters way too much. I love stretchy-armed characters. Number 5. This one was titled, Pokemon Uses Satanic Cult-Like Symbolism. So this was a rhetoric that followed after people said that Dungeons and Dragons was evil, right? This was a thing, and it got associated with various incidents around the U.S. This is an article from Press Enterprise, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, year 2000, April 1st, by one Robert Delbo. Another opinion piece, but this one I think was from a staff, whereas the other one was written in. When first seeing Pokemon on TV, he says, I didn't think it was bad. Then, through my son's Sunday school teacher and the website, and he linked some weird escape.com website, never heard of it, my wife and I became aware of the symbolism, much tied to the occult and the history associated with it. We learned many of the devices used in Pokemon, which means pocket monsters, are satanic, demonic, and cult-like. One of the Pokemon characters has a pentagram on his forehead, SSS on his chest, and does a satanic salute. I don't know who that is. I don't know who he's talking about.
Who has a pentagram on its forehead?
Yeah. Another character is a cross-dresser. Pokemon's goal is to destroy enemies any way possible, spraying acid to blind them and steal their powers. Okay, but this is the best part of that article, because there are definitely other articles like this. He then goes, when sharing this information with our 4-year-old son, he immediately took the Pokemon toy he received at a local restaurant and threw it in the trash. He said he didn't want an evil toy. He has since told his friends to do the same thing.
Oh my god.
I don't believe that part at all. Listen, kid, Kadabra is Satan and also a Nazi. Well, I don't want Kadabra anymore. Kadabra's badass. Weirdly enough, Kadabra pops up again in this list. People did not like Kadabra.
Let me make a prediction. Is that from the Uri Geller stuff?
It is.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know about this.
I knew about that one.
Oh, that was new to me. Yes, that's a little bit later, so we'll pocket that tater totter.
That's some foreshadowing.
To bring out in a bit.
That's some tickling of your balls for you.
Oh, a little ball tickler. Getting you hyped.
Can we start calling foreshadowing that ball tickling?
Right. They slip in a little ball tickler here to get everybody hot and bothered for the rest of the episode. Good. Yeah. So, number 4. This is a review of the first Pokemon movie called Please Be the First and Last Movie by Brian McKenzie in Charlottesville, Virginia, November 22nd, 1999. I am not reading the whole review. Basically, he didn't like it, obviously.
Really?
But I pulled out this one little part that, out of context, I think is even funnier than it could ever be in context, okay? So he goes, it's The Muppet Babies, written by pit bulls. Like Saturday at the dogfights, Pokemon fights to further their trainers who dream of being bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin and getting elected governor of Minnesota.
What?
What does that sentence mean?
That's just word vomit.
He says it's The Muppet Babies, written by pitbulls. And his idea of the biggest goal someone could have is being bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin and getting elected governor of Minnesota.
Yeesh.
Yes, that is a beautiful sentence.
Curse you, modern meme culture. But I did think for a second, when you said pitbulls, you were not going to include the S and just say it was written by Pitbull. And that would have been funnier, honestly.
And really mind-bending, considering this was written in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Pitbull was a popular artist then.
He really is Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Time-wide.
Mr. Time-wide.
Mr.
Yeah.
Breaking the time continuum. Okay, we're going into number 3, and this is where things get spicy and partially sensitive. I am going to just read kind of things word for word, and we are referencing an article here. This is definitely pointing at a deeper, loaded situation that's very complicated. The article's from the LA Times, April 24th, 2001, by Ranwa Yela. Pokemon. Issue reflects Arab-Jewish tensions. Okay, so I learned through this article that some leading Arabic-speaking countries were condemning Pokemon. Like, their leaders were condemning Pokemon. Muslim leaders in Oman, Qatar, Dubai, Jordan, and Egypt had all declared Pokemon as anti-Islam. Now, okay, that's, definitely in parts of other countries, parents were saying it's anti-religion or something like that. But what is even wilder to me, or I wouldn't have even considered, is that what's deeper than that is they saw Pokemon as a Jewish conspiracy to destroy Islam. So, this is from the article now. Japanese embassies throughout the region have received inquiries from parents and officials who have heard that Pokemon was Japanese for I am a Jew. It has been proven that this toy part of a Jewish plan to corrupt the mind of our young generation because it alludes to blasphemous thinking, it mocks our God and our moral values, and is therefore extremely dangerous for our youth, said Sheikh Abdel Monem Abu Zent, hardliner and former member of parliament in Jordan who has helped stir up discontent, although acknowledges that he's not familiar with the game. I would have believed that part. So the more quotes, the game is abusive to Allah, and the characters' names are code words for anti-Islamic terms such as be a Jew. There was a headline, this is quoting another headline in an article called Pokemon Virus, published in the United Arab Emirates. The idea being that Pokemon is infiltrating your homes to basically promote Judaism and destroy your kid's grip on Islam. Yeah, that was a brand new concept for me.
Jesus Christ.
Now, what I really found interesting about that, though, is that article on its own is something new, quite interesting.
It's an article that exists.
It's an article that exists. But it's when you contrast that sort of fervor, okay, with what comes next. And this is what you ball tickled, the Uri Geller case. So the article is Geller sues Nintendo over evil Pokemon cartoon monster. This was published everywhere via Los Angeles and Reuters, but I got this via the Saskatoon Star Phoenix, Canadian paper, November 3rd, 2000. So the idea here was that there's this famous psychic from the 70s and 80s sued Nintendo for hundreds of millions of dollars Wednesday, claiming that the Japanese game maker turned him into an evil occult Pokemon character by naming a Pokemon in the blockbuster cartoon series after him. Both he and his lawyer suggested that there were elements of anti-Semitism in the character's depiction. So that's the contrast that I find wild, is that you've got one group of folks saying that it promotes Judaism to destroy Islam, and then a lawsuit comes where they're saying Pokemon is anti-Semitic.
It's the 90s were a wild time.
The 90s were wild. Yeah.
In a way, I'm kind of upset that I missed that, because that would have been something to live through.
Well, I didn't know about this. I lived then.
That's your problem.
Is stuff like that showed up at the back of the newspaper and was there and gone. And now what happens is we have this level of division now, but it's crammed through your phone hole, via every kind of social source.
It's
possible.
So much more accessible now.
Exactly. So it's a much more streamlined process. So it was much easier to miss things like this, thankfully, before. But okay, so the idea with this Uri Geller case was that he was a psychic who used spoons like that. And what kind of even strengthens the case is that Kadabra's name in Japan, I had it written down.
It's Yungurer.
Is Yungurer.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. Which is possibly kind of close to Uri Geller when you consider that how you would turn L's into Japanese is they turn them into like an sound like that. So possibly there is something there that he was kind of inspired. I don't know if the anti-Semitist stuff was acknowledged, though. I don't believe Japan or Nintendo kind of acknowledged that in any serious way. It did have a repercussion, though, that I'm sure you're familiar with, that they didn't print cards of Kadabra from 2003 until like this year, I think.
Yep. Yeah, he walked back the lawsuit in 2020, and then from then the first card set that featured the Abra line came out in I think it's out very recent, like 2 months ago in Japan, and it's coming out next month in the West.
Wow.
The English expansion.
Kadabra's back.
Month, yeah.
And he's not an anti-Semitist, eh?
I hope not.
But yeah, that's an interesting one. And to me, the contrast of those last two articles were like, when I was finding these, I was like, whoa. Like, yeah. Whoa. Okay, number one, a bit more lighthearted, was an article called Understanding Pokemon by Joyce Millman. This is by far the best written article in this list. I actually enjoyed this, okay? So if some of you like digging up old newspaper articles, this is Joyce Millman in the Vancouver Sun from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Saturday, July 10th, 1999. The article's called Understanding Pokemon. It's a bit of a satire piece that is basically trying to explain Pokemon in a way that someone who doesn't know about Pokemon at all would understand. It's like, it's not necessarily anti-Pokemon, but it's not really pro-Pokemon anywhere. It's sort of like a spin on things. So I'm gonna go into some excerpts from this article so you get a feel for it. She starts going, maybe you've read news stories about it being banned from elementary schools. Maybe a guy on the street tried to sell you some cheap. Or maybe you've been cornered by a wild-eyed 8-year-old addict, the kid next door, your cousin, even your own son or daughter, and subjected to a rambling monologue about hit points, damages, and evolved stages. This is Pokemon, and it's some weird stuff. Imagine cockfighting crossed with Hello Kitty and you're merely scratching the surface. Below the surface, it gets even weirder. So then she goes on and tries to like debunk Pokemon, kind of show you what it's about. I'm going to, just pull out some highlights. So here she goes. Pokemon. I think the name loosely translates to empty the pockets of your hapless parents, sheep children. Okay, that's a good one. Here she's explaining what Pokemon attacks are. This is good. Each Pokemon has a special power of attack, and these attacks are the most endearingly dorky part of the game. For instance, the Shrieking Pigeon Pidgey blinds opponents with his Gust attack, which is a fancy way of saying that he flaps his wings and blows sand in their eyes. Jigglypuff, who looks like a wad of pink bubblegum, possesses a hypnotic Sing attack that, according to the official Pokemon Encyclopedia, can send even the toughest Pokemon to Dreamland. Well, I'm not sure how Bulbasaur, a dinosaur thing with what looks like a large garlic bulb growing out of its back, vanquishes opponents. Perhaps he overpowers them with a strong batch of pesto. Clearly, we're not talking about Mortal Kombat here.
I want to see Bulbasaur make pesto.
Yeah, I like Bulbasaur pesto. That's definitely fan art right there. Bulbasaur cooking a Italian for us. Commenting on the anime, she says, the hero of the TV show, 10-year-old Ash Ketchum, is undergoing the rite of passage prescribed for all 10-year-olds in Pokemon World. He journeys the countryside without parental supervision, hunting Pokemon, battling worthy opponents, and earning merit badges. Earning merit badges. As rites of passage go, this one looks pretty grueling. Why not just have a bar mitzvah or a confirmation? The presents are better and you don't have to live in the woods without television or Slurpees for months on end.
Why are Slurpees the one thing she chose?
That's very Canadian, yeah. She does give Pokemon some credit here. She says there's no killing Pokemon who lose matches. They don't die, they pass out. Then they're sent off for rehab at the Pokemon equivalent of the Betty Ford Center. She has a couple weird parts. So the one last segment that I pulled out is where she tries to kind of deconstruct Pokemon as like what it could be a metaphor like for in the real world. And this is something. When Ash needs a Pokemon, he takes a Pokeball out of his pocket, hurls it at his opponent, and the Pokemon bursts out ready to rock and roll. So to review, boy rubs ball, pocket monster pops out. Do I have to draw you a picture? Nascent sexuality aside, Pokemon is also thick with corporate metaphors. On the show, Ash and other trainers assemble a core of Pokemon employees, demand their loyalty, coop them up in undersized quarters, and send them out to fight their battles. The trainer's ascent up the Pokemon League ladder depends entirely on the performance of his employees. Pokemon may be a cartoon, but it's one of the best management training films you'll ever see. If it inspires a generation of American kids to embark on a quest to be the greatest middle manager of all time, so be it, especially if it makes them do their math homework. I suppose it's a sign of how screwy things are for families these days that despite its profound strangeness, parents have welcomed the bloodless and strategy-emphasizing Pokemon with open arms. And I agree. Better your pre-adolescent son be obsessing over non-threatening characters named Jigglypuff and Caterpie than dressing in combat fatigues and terrorizing the neighborhood pets.
Very true.
Very true indeed.
True.
So.
Yeah, that's some wild shit.
That's some wild shit. So that's my top article, Understanding Pokemon, really Vancouver's Son. But yeah, that's a journey through what some of the Pokemon rhetoric was in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Wild.
Love to hear feedback. Is that the kind of content you like? Do you like the short form list? This is not something we'll necessarily stick to. And well, we definitely won't do this kind of thing again. But, you know, we like shaking it up. I'd personally like to just think of whatever we can do in these segments to kind of explore creatively. So, yeah, leave comments, whatever you think about that. And from there, though, let's get into the real TCAD meat.
The real episodes. Okay. So.
Yes.
Let's jump into episode 68, The Evolution Solution. Fun title to say. So we're still in Pallet Town.
Yep.
And everyone is going to be heading to Seafoam Island for a beach trip.
Yeah, beach day, Seafoam Island. So remind me, Seafoam Island is in the games, right?
Yeah, it's Seafoam Islands in the game. And I don't think it's really a beach.
It's a dungeon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's an icy cave.
It's an ice cave where Articuno lives.
Yeah. So that's not really properly indicative of the games.
I will say, calling it Seafoam Island to me as like a comic book nerd kind of feels like when companies will do like a show or a movie and they'll name it after some comic book, but it'll be like barely like the comic book was at all. It'll be like a small little teaser so that people are like, oh, I recognize that name. But it's like not like it at all.
And so they're leaving Ash behind. Everyone's going to go have fun. Delia, Brock, and Misty are going out with Delia's friends to Seafoam Island. They're going to have some fun on the beach. Ash has to stay behind and train for the League. His mom left him a sandwich in the fridge, which is an important story note, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And he gets left behind. So he goes down to Oak's lab. I'm not sure if he broke in or if Oak asked him to come down or what the story was there.
I get the feeling like Oak's the type of guy who doesn't lock his door.
No, probably not.
You forget.
No one in the Pokemon world locks the door. Have you ever played the game?
Oh, yeah. Very much like the Zelda
They're
world.
all open.
Right?
Yeah.
You can just roll in and smash their pots.
So he stops by Oak's lab, and Oak is having a mental breakdown. He's having trouble solving an evolution mystery.
Ooh.
It's the mystery of Slowpoke and Shelder. When Shelder clamps onto Slowpoke's tail, Slowpoke becomes Slowbro, but Oak doesn't understand why this is.
Right, so Shelder is a little clam Pokemon. Slowpoke we've seen before, I believe. I don't really know what animal Slowpoke's supposed to be like. It's like a hairless hippo thing, but little.
Hey,
and
yeah,
pink, and it has a long tail. It looks animalistic. You're like, it looks familiar as an animal, vaguely hippo-ish. I don't know.
According to Bulbapedia, Slowpoke is a pink Pokemon that resembles a cross between a salamander and a hippopotamus.
There you go. A salamander hippo.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it looks less weird than you would think, that combination.
I love Slowpoke.
Yeah, Slowpoke is good.
He's adorable.
He's adorable.
So the Pokedex doesn't have the answer either. So he thinks, oh, you know what? I'll ask Professor Westwood, who lives on Seafoam Island. And Ash takes this opportunity to be like, oh, hey, I'll go do that for you. I'll go talk to him. We have phones in this world. I feel like Oak could have just given him a call.
They have video phones.
Yeah, that would have been easier.
But Ash and Pikachu are both excited. They're kind of in on this. Let's use this as an excuse.
So they ditch Mimey. Unfortunately, Mimey gets left behind now.
Oh, imagine Mimey on a surfboard. That's terrifying.
Oh, I wish. Oh, Why would you put that in my head? Now I'm sad that we didn't get that.
Wasted potential.
Yeah. So yeah, Ash and Pikachu head off to Seafoam Island to go talk to this guy.
Is it just me, or does this beach on Seafoam Island look exactly like Porta Vista from the earlier episodes?
Yeah, I think they may have just
it's a copy and paste beach.
Yeah. So he makes it to Seafoam Island. Brock and Misty are what is it they're doing? It's sailing, but it's like on a windsurfing. That's the word. And they all go, they berate Ash. They're like, you're supposed to be training. He's like, I am training. This is a special kind of training. Blah, blah, blah. You just wanted a vacation.
Yeah, Ash. Misty goes, is he training or tanning? And then they fall into the water.
So they all go to see Professor Westwood, who is apparently the guy who programmed the Pokedex.
I think one of the people that programmed the Pokedex was kind of the verbiage. I had kind of before this thought Oak had made the Pokedex, but no, that's
this was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
They refer to him as Professor Westwood. He's like, please, no, call me Westwood the Fifth, as if that's any easier.
This is Professor's too formal. So this Westwood guy,
he is something.
Yeah, are you familiar with Larry David, Kellan?
I know who Larry David is.
You know what he looks like?
Yeah.
This guy looks exactly like Larry David, and he sounds like him
I can
too.
See it.
He's got like that sort of East Coast accent. So yeah, Larry David is in the Pokemon show, and he is awkward, and that's good.
And eccentric.
Eccentric, yeah.
He's sure something. And he shows us photos of all of his ancestors. Westwood the First, Westwood the Second, Westwood the Third, Westwood the Fourth, who all look the same, who look just like him. And then we can look at Westwood the Fifth's portrait, and it's this young, dashing, handsome man.
It's like the hot anime guy. It's like a Bishoujo, almost like a glowing prince of a painting.
But he's then he gets distracted by Togepi. He's never seen a Togepi before, so he's very interested in it. But he's been researching legendary Pokemon, and he's working on a fictional account, to which Misty clocks him and says, "See, you're making stuff up." And he freaks out. And then he goes to apologize to all the photos of his ancestors, even himself. And he goes to the fifth one. He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. That's me."
And that seems to be like his thing. That's like his
running joke.
Yeah,
that is a running joke. So he's currently trying to solve the mystery of Slowpoke's evolution as well. He's trying to come up with a theory to present to the Pokemon Symposium. So he goes fishing to kind of get in that Slowpoke mindset, because Slowpoke like to fish with their tails, as we see now.
Yeah, and so there is a Slowpoke there who is also fishing. So him and the Slowpoke are fishing together. This is his Slowpoke, actually, right? Like,
maybe. I'm not sure if it ever actually said.
It seems like it's the main Pokemon that hangs around the lab. They do kind of say though.
Yeah. That's probably his.
So Ash brings out the dex on this Pokemon. He says it's called the Dopey Pokemon in there.
True.
Which they think's a little mean. But Westwood thinks that one of his assistants wrote that. He's like, I don't know. I don't write all of them. Like, give me a break, man.
But Misty looks at Slowpoke's face. She's like, that expression seems familiar. And then Psyduck pops out. She's like, oh yeah, it's Psyduck. They're both
right
stupid.
Cue.
They're both idiots.
But what's great about these two idiots is they start chatting. But it's like a really slow conversation. Slow.
Beautiful. They think they're just like saying hi to each other.
The animators a solid minute of animation. And Ash goes, that's not the most intelligent conversation. She says to Psyduck, tell Slowpoke to stop acting as dumb as you are.
Ooh. And then a Krabby jumps up out of nowhere and pinches their tails and dips. It takes a bit, but then Psyduck feels the pain and starts freaking out. I don't think Slowpoke ever felt the pain.
No, he's fine.
He's all right.
Catches a Magikarp. But that bit where like Psyduck just like pauses and then he feels the pain like 10 seconds later. That's pretty good.
And then it's lunchtime, and we cut to Giovanni chilling on the beach. He's having a relaxing day after what happened to the Team Rocket headquarters that blew the fuck up.
Right, when Metal Sonic destroyed it.
Yeah. And so, cut to Meowth bawling over how much better Giovanni treats his Persian than him.
Oh. Yeah, so he's got our regular Team Rocket crew digging for clams, apparently.
He's got them by the balls.
Yeah. But for some reason, he's got them on the beach literally digging for clams. Okay.
Well, you want fresh clams. You don't want those dingy store-bought clams. You want fresh clams.
Fresh clam.
For lunch. Come on. Yeah, they also swabbed his yacht, and now they're digging for clams. Meowth claims if they don't do well, they get another pay cut, which tells us they've already had a pay cut.
Scared of getting fired, too. And you know what, Meowth? Getting fired would be the best thing that would happen to you, you guys.
You could start a beauty salon.
They could do so many things. They have skills.
Do you think Team Rocket has severance pay?
No. I think that they get killed. It's a gang.
That's fair. That's why they're so scared of it.
Not saying that all gangs are like that, but, Sopranos, Yellowstone, TV gangs.
What we know from TV.
That isn't this show.
James feverishly digs in the sand, and he pulls out a shelter, and he wants to catch it. And then Meowth calls it a crummy crustacean, and says, I know how to clam you up for good.
Oh, good one, Meowth. Good one.
So it's Weezing versus Shelder. Weezing tries to tackle it. Shelder hits it with an ice beam. Weezing hazes it, and it faints. James goes for the Pokeball, but Jesse steps in front, throws the ball first. Jesse catches the Shelder.
The Shelder's kind of cute, but what was really noticeable to me is how it says its name.
I did not catch that.
Well, how Shelders talk, it's like really high pitched. It's like Shelder! It's like scream. Like screams its name. It's like a tortured clam. I want to be a clam.
They get summoned to Giovanni. He is sick of watching them blunder. He's going to put them on a job. They're going to break into Westwood's laboratory, and they don't want to find out what will happen to them if they fail this. Or else.
During this whole conversation, Meowth's trying to drink Persian's milk with a straw. He's got like a long straw trying to drink the milk. Poor Meowth, he just wants some milk.
And so back to lunch at the laboratory. The main mystery Westwood is investigating is as to why Shelder changes shell shape upon clamping onto Slowpoke's tail and having Slowpoke evolve, which is something I've always wondered, because you look at Slowbro and they're like, hey, that's a Shelder on its tail. And you look at it and you're like, that's not a Shelder.
Right, bringing up the shape difference here, though, is sort of a slightly different riddle than really the episode's trying to solve. Because what we find out later from the conclusion, that really what they were investigating was like, why do the two Pokemon evolve together? Which isn't necessarily the same question as you're proposing here, is why does the shape change?
Well, that was something that he posed during lunch. I think they're just jumping all over the place.
Totally.
I think the people who wrote the episode didn't know what they wanted to ask, and so they just threw shit at the wall.
These are as filler gets, these two episodes. They have nothing to do with anything.
And so meanwhile, Team Rocket parasails right onto the deck of the lab, and they do their motto, but they're trapped underneath the parachute.
Covered under the parachute. They get it off at the end, and Meowth goes, that's flight!
Meowth, you've already used that one.
Well, he can reuse it. He's Meowth.
Come on. Ugh. So they want him to program, instead of the Pokedex, the Team Rockedex. And they go into this whole bit where they just list off, they just brag about themselves. Like, Jesse's the most beautiful, and James is, his head is too small for his brain. The looks of a movie star. Oh,
head too small for his brain. Meowth, he's the feline mastermind whose diabolical plans never fail. Only things sharper than my mind are my claws.
I'm also humble and housebroken.
Perfect.
I love that.
I'll adopt you, Meowth. Give me my third cat.
Westwood thinks that they're trying to kidnap him, and he runs in and begs the pictures of his ancestors to help. And again, he goes up to his own photo and begs for help. And he's like, oh, wait, that's me. That's me. That's me.
Yeah, that's really Westwood's What You Talking About, Willis. That's like his sitcom riff.
That, and when they call him Professor, he's like, no, don't call me Professor. Call me Westwood the Fifth.
I like this line, because Jesse's retort to that is, I'll call you King Henry VIII. Just give us the Pokemon.
What does Henry VIII have anything to do with this guy?
This is a pretty funny name drop to happen in a Pokemon episode.
Wild.
I get that it's like so historical that it isn't that jarring, but like, okay, so is King Henry is England in the Pokemon world?
England is canonical.
England is canonical. Possibly
guillotines.
Shakespeare. Yeah, guillotines.
Divorce is canonical in the Pokemon world.
The Anglican religion. Like, there's a lot of implications of King
A
Henry
lot of
VIII.
implications.
Yes.
Oh,
Beautiful.
man. And so Slowpoke wanders into the lab. Team Rocket's plan is to use the shelter they just caught to attach the Slowpoke, evolve it into a Slowbro, and then take Slowbro back to the boss. And so Westwood grabs Slowpoke, runs out, he trips, drops Slowpoke, and Jesse sends Shelter after it. We got a whole chase scene of Slowpoke running in a circle really fast, which I thought was dumb because Slowpoke is slow. And
this is like the one time he's suddenly really fast is when the Shelter is chasing him. And Shelters can't run. He's like bouncing. He's like bouncing along the sand, right?
You know what? We'll bring that back. Remind me to bring that back up near the end of the episode.
Well, he opens his shell with such force that it like propels him, and that's how he's like moving, I think.
There's some interesting stuff there. Ash goes to help it, but Misty jumps in with her classic, "This is water type Pokemon. This is my specialty," as if that's gonna fucking change anything. And so she goes for Psyduck comes out.
Yeah, of course.
It's Psyduck.
Let's face it, Misty, you have Psyduck now.
And that's
okay?
it.
Repeat after me. Nope, Psyduck. There's nothing else.
And she refers to it as no mind leading no mind, which I thought that was a fun play.
Well, this is the Psyduck Slowbro like team up.
Trying to help Slowbro.
Slowpoke.
Slowpoke. Yeah.
Ash says, because the Shelter then bites Psyduck's tail instead of the Slowpoke, and Ash calls him, "It's Cybro."
He's gonna be a Cybro.
And Brock, like stone cold, is like, "There's no such thing as a Cybro, you fucking moron."
Ash, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I'm so done with it.
They really berate him for that. But what I love is that, like, just a few seconds later, Ash, like, all sheepishly is like,
I made it
guys,
up.
I made up the Cybro thing.
I wasn't being serious.
I wasn't being serious. I made it up. Like, he's confessing. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so Psyduck has the shelter on his tail, and he freaks out, and he flings it off. Misty claims that he used his tail wag attack. Not a thing. Tail whip. Misty, come on. And then, Ash is like, I was making it up. Doing the little, like, kicking a rock thing.
Yeah,
sheepishly.
Exactly. I swear, teacher, I swear.
And so Weezing then trampolines off of Psyduck, which that was a great bit. Loved that.
Yeah, he was just bouncing on Psyduck's head, right? Like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and so then Jesse grabs Shelter, throws it at Slowpoke, misses, and it grabs Psyduck's head.
Yeah. This is perfect. All roads of Psyduck episodes lead to this.
Which causes a massive headache, which awaken Psyduck's latent psychic powers, and he disables Team Rocket in place, and then uses confusion to lift them and Shelter and Weezing all in the air. And then Professor Westwood goes up to Psyduck, and he's like, "Whoa, I've never seen these kind of powers before. Let me research them." And then he stops immediately, and
he doesn't
fall.
Give a fuck. I like this time when he is using his psychic powers on Team Rocket, and this has happened before, but this time Meowth goes, "Where am I? What am I? Who am I?" I love when Psyduck goes super duck. Like, it's so badass.
And so he like flings Team Rocket out a distance, and they scream that they're going sand blasting off again. Well done, Team Rocket.
Yeah, sure.
And then Shelter falls to the ground next to Slowpoke, grabs the tail, and it evolves into Slowbro.
Right, so all of this saving the day did not do anything.
No.
So why do you think that Westwood was... Like, so Westwood, he's obsessed. Like, he wants to understand why this evolution happens. But as this evolution happens, he said he's never witnessed this before. So why was he so resistant to this evolution?
See, I have no idea, because these characters make no sense ever. And so their motivations are confusing at best.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly explained, but...
I mean, maybe he wanted to try and figure it out because like he would only have one chance to see this evolution.
So you wanted to do it in like a very controlled environment, possibly, yeah.
And so Team Rocket comes running back in after seeing that Slowbro has now become... Well, Slowpoke has evolved into Slowbro. And they run back in. "We're sick of playing these shell games."
There you go. There you go.
And so Westwood sends Slowbro back at him with a mega punch attack. But Slowbro has no clue what that is because of its amnesia attack.
So, is that a thing?
Amnesia is a thing. It does not cause opponents to forget, it raises special, in Gen 1 special stat, and then Gen 2 onward special defense stat by 2 stages.
Oh, okay.
Well,
So-
it would have made sense if Amnesia
Blocked
did
a
what
move.
Disable did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just disabled a move.
Well, that's what happens in the show, I guess. So Slowbro apparently has forgotten Mega Punch. But then, he right in time, he suddenly remembers it. So that's good.
And this is awesome.
This is good.
Slowbro landing the Mega Punch is fantastic.
Yeah,
he lands the Mega
hand,
Punch.
like glows pink, right?
Yeah, and he lands it on all 3 of them and sends them flying away. And looks like Team Rocket got knocked out again.
There you go. We haven't described Slowbro yet.
So it's Slowpoke.
Is Slowpoke, but now he's standing on 2 feet.
Yeah,
and he has bigger. This big shell on his back, on his tail.
Yeah,
that's holding him kind of upright, and he's a little bigger. Yeah. He's got pretty meaty paws, though. Good old punching gloves.
Yeah, and so Westwood has got it figured out. Shelter clamps onto Slowpoke because it is a mutually beneficial evolution. The shell helps Slowbro balance, being able to stand on 2 feet, freeing up its front legs for punching attacks. And this also allows Shelter to travel on land, which I don't fucking buy. That's bullshit. We just saw Shelter chasing Slowpoke.
We saw it
on
running
land
across a beach.
Westwood, you're supposed to be a researcher. How did you not notice that?
Yeah, I kind of get it helps Slowpoke balance to now stand up. Okay.
That makes sense. I can buy that.
The Shelter, though, it's still its own being that now permanently has a tail in its mouth. How does it eat? What does it eat?
There's probably some kind of like tube
into
organ.
Slowbro.
Yeah. It's like,
does he eat
it's like
shit?
how
Is this like a human centipede situation?
No, I think it's equivalent to how a fetus absorbs nutrients.
Oh, you think he
in the
does have, when they evolve, they like tie together somehow?
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to go
they
with
have
that.
an umbilical cord. That's what you're trying to get at? Okay.
But anyway, they've uncovered the mystery as far as they're concerned, which is not how I'm concerned because I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, they also didn't say the word symbiosis. Should have dropped that one for the kids.
Unfortunate. But now it's evening time and the gang is going to head back to Pallet Town. Psyduck seems sad. He wants to go say goodbye to his new friend, which I thought that was sweet.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun.
I like that.
And so we're at the beach at sunset. They don't know how to say goodbye. You know what? I ship Psyduck and Slowbro.
You ship them? Like you think they're going to make out? Or like
I think they're
friends?
a good couple. No, they would be a good couple. Psyduck and Slowbro are the best Pokemon couple.
Okay.
And you can quote me on that.
I'm not sure if I picked up chemistry of that type.
Romance.
I certainly did friends. I thought they were great.
It was the sunset.
But you never said goodbye to a homie at sunset.
Not like that.
That's
not
fair.
on the beach, standing face to face,
staring into each other's eyes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you let out a big old sigh.
And so the narrator says a lot of stuff about come join us next week. I didn't write it down because I didn't think it was important. And then he said, don't worry, we'll still be here. And I thought that was funny because they will never finish saying goodbye.
No. The show is now just these 2 Pokemon saying goodbye. That is what the whole show is now. Forever. All right.
And that is the episode.
Yeah. So, not the best episode, right? Like,
nah, it's
fine. It is kind of funny. Like, I like these fillery episodes for what they are. And they're kind of more akin to like a Saturday morning cartoon, like Looney Tunes-ish, right? Like, just see some antics. But yeah, a little on the weaker side.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess what my literary comparison would be to The Evolution Solution?
Oh, is it what's it called? The book by Darwin.
You got it. The book by Darwin. Yes, of course it is. It's on the origin of species.
There you go.
Yes, by Charles Darwin. Considered to be the foundation of evolutionary biology. I'm taking this from Wikipedia, of course, because like where else would you read about the origin of species? Come on, it's a good enough place. November 24th, 1859. Book introduced the scientific theory that populations evolve over the course of generations. Of course, this is like a real scientific phenomenon, and is shown kind of how living creatures have changed their biological makeup over time, at least like what kind of creatures that there are, what kind of species that there are. I have not read The Origin of Species. I think I've seen excerpts from it. I hear it is pretty dense, a good one
I believe
to
it.
knock yourself out too. I usually read crappy shonen manga to fall asleep, but I could definitely try this. That's definitely like the core idea of evolution. This is a little bit of a cheap one bringing this up because the core evolution idea of evolution from Pokemon, of course, is at least titled after the real theory of evolution. So and it comes up all the time. But thought this was the opportunity since it's literally called the evolution solution. And the scientist, Larry David on the island studying the animals is like the story of Darwin going to like the Galapagos, was it? And looking at the finches and thinking about their beaks and stuff. At least that's kind of the story that goes along with this when people talk about it. Yeah, The Origin of Species. Here it's a humdinger.
I'm gonna loop it back to Pokemon.
You're gonna
by referencing loop it.
Ball ticklers and lube this episode.
I'm gonna loop it back to Pokemon with referencing the epic rap battle of history, Charles Darwin versus Ashketchum.
Oh,
and you probably didn't know about that.
That is vaguely familiar. That was a YouTube hit, right? Or is it before YouTube?
Epic rap battles of history was like huge in like early 2010s and stuff. They're still going. And one of the more recent, and by more recent I mean the past like 6-7 years or something, was Darwin versus Ash. And
okay, I definitely don't know it then.
And it's because of that video that I know Darwin went to the Galapagos. That's why I was able to confirm that fact for you.
Hey, I wasn't assuming anything. I thought you knew. I was kind of thinking it was from an episode of Wishbone or Reading Rainbow or something. But yeah, you're good. You're good.
Reading Rainbow on The Origin of Species?
Well, yeah, that's a little bit heavy, but who knows?
All right.
LeVar Burton just reading like this is dry scientific text to the kids. And the emerging patterns of the carnivore's teeth can thus show us from the mammoth's lower jaw, blah, blah, blah.
I should have known what the book title was because one of Ash's lines in that rap battle is, "Your shit-talking mouth is the origin of feces."
Oh,
come on. How did I not get that one?
Oh, that's pretty fucking good.
Let's get to the 4-pour, shall we?
Right, so this is the 4-pour, the plastic ping pong picture of objective rankings. We're going to pull 2 categories randomly from this picture, and that's what we'll be rating the episodes based on. What is our first category, Kellan?
Our first category for the evolution solution will be anime mom energy. There wasn't a lot of Delia. Well, she's in it right at the start.
She is. The sandwiches. That's it. We got the sandwich.
And ditching her child to go have fun.
God, Ash's mom is a babe. Yeah, we don't get that much of her though.
No, but she's there, and we love her.
I'm not that guy who's just like gross all the time. So that I pledge to you, I will only be gross about one character, and it is Ash's mom. She is so hot.
I will not make that same promise because it's good for the content.
Well, because because Lauralee and Orange Islands will happen at some point.
Yes.
I've seen the thumbnail on Bulbapedia, and I'm like, I don't remember that.
I wasn't thinking about that, but yes.
I do not remember that. Okay.
At 5 for me.
Yeah, 3. Like
She's there.
We get a bit, but that's it. It's not a mom episode.
So that's 4. All right. And number 2 will be Team Rocket's motto. So it's them in
it's in
parachute.
The parachute. Not bad. So
and me out, that's flight.
Do we take 5 as like the typical one? Or
I can't remember. I think we've established this before. I think the base Team Rocket motto with absolutely no changes is the baseline 1.
Oh, okay. Well,
because it's always going to be there, but it can only get better than that.
Then a 4. It is.
I was thinking like
an improvement,
6.
but well, you know what?
I thought it was very funny.
I'm more comfortable with a 6. It's a good bit. It's a good.
You can go 4 if you'd like.
No. I'm trying to calibrate it here.
All right, fine.
Because this is a tricky one. Yes, 6.
Okay,
6 is good.
So between 6 and a 4, that is 5. Perfectly average episode.
And it is a perfectly average episode.
Four agrees with us this time.
The Four agrees. This time it deserves the 5. Sometimes we'll give it'll be like the greatest episode of the show, and we'll give it a 2.
3. Fuck you. It gets a 2.5.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next episode, episode 69. Nice. The Pi-Kahuna. Now, I want to say, before we get into this episode, genuinely, I loved this.
Okay.
I thought this was a fantastic episode.
Sweet.
I'm genuinely, honestly, I'm talking like top 5 of episodes we've seen so far.
Really?
Yeah, I loved this episode.
You know what? I'm not sure if I agree, but I'm open to it. No, I actually am. I don't agree, actually. But
I was not expecting you to agree, but watching this one, I was into it.
I don't have like a principle as to disagreeing. So I'm definitely excited to hear kind of like what things you picked up on. It is such a bottled episode that I could see this either being one that like a person really loves or that like you don't remember at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. But I thought it was fantastic.
Know what? You're a very like you like something that's like the design of it strikes you and that it's like cute or leaves an impact. It's the surfing Pikachu. That's why you like it,
partially.
That's okay. Surfing Pikachu's fucking dope.
Yeah, that's not all of it. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode from start to finish.
Okay, cool.
But let's get into it from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Ash and Pikachu are training for the league to be in top shape. Everyone's in athletic gear.
Yeah, they're doing the Rocky.
This is weird.
Yeah, they're advertising for Adidas. They're in full like Eastern European track suits, right? Like they're gonna like start squatting and like selling cigarettes or something. Like it's like
this is the second
vibes.
episode, only other one being Beauty and the Beach so far, that the gang is in different clothes for the entire episode. Like we don't see their default outfits.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Good point. I mean, maybe this sounds like kind of small, but I love in anime when they give characters different clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so cool.
It's so novel.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a breath of fresh air, honestly.
There's some manga kind of more recently that have been better for this. Like, of course, like, One Piece is awesome how every arc, like, people have different clothes. There's a manga called Dan to Dan. For any of you that actually read manga, you gotta check out Dan to Dan. It's about aliens and ghosts. But the characters in it are always wearing like different clothes, and oh man, are they drippy? They are drippy as heck.
And so they're running down the road, and a car drives by and splashes them with the puddle and sprays them with the exhaust. And suddenly, Ash is in the middle of a traffic jam full of angry New York drivers.
Yeah, he finds himself in Times Square suddenly.
Yeah. Hey, where'd you learn to drive? I'm walking here.
I'm walking here. Get yourself a hot dog.
Get a pizza pie.
Ma, the spaghetti.
And so Jenny comes driving in on her bike and directs the traffic out of the way. And then this is fantastic. I loved this bit, which wasn't a bit, I don't think. This was just poor writing and planning, where she goes, well, that's over. And then one car drives by very slowly, and it's just 5 seconds of silence before she goes, next time, be a little more careful. And it's just, there's nothing in that 5-second stretch.
Yeah, just let it hang. The reason why is we need a whole lot of buildup, because she's about to say the greatest word ever spoken in Pokemon history. Humungadunga.
There is a lot of traffic because Humungadunga is on the way.
Humungadunga.
Now, at first, I thought she said Humungadug, and that was a person that was coming, and that was going to be like
a person.
Yeah, like the legendary surfer.
Or this is like the King Kong of the Seafoam Islands, Humungadug.
And so Humungadunga is a giant wave that only hits the island once every 20 years.
Oh yeah.
And there's a bit of a competition between surfers where they try to ride the wave as high as they can and stick a flag in this rock spire that's jutting out of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
There's one flag, the pin at the very, very top of this rock spire, planted by Jan. And there's only the one flag.
Jan the man.
Jan is a surfing legend.
Yeah, he's the greatest surfer in the history of the Seafoam Islands.
And so Ash, of course, gets it in his head that he's going to do it. And he goes surfing with his Psyduck surfboard.
Yeah. I like that surfboard. Very cute.
Loved it. And then Togepi's playing in a puddle with Pikachu, which has no effect on the
cute.
story, but it was so fucking cute.
It's cute.
It's very cute.
Well, because it's at that moment that Pikachu, while playing with Togepi, notices on top of a cliff, there's another Pikachu there looking into the sea. And its tail is kind of glowing blue.
And it's also kind of shaggy. It seems old. It's aged. It's an old Pikachu.
A wizened Pikachu, yes.
Its tail lifts and glows, and then we go to some purple-haired man in a house, and he goes, "That's a big wave, but it's not the big wave."
Exactly. That's basically how he talks. You could just be Sam Elliott, the actor.
Yeah.
So Ash is surfing on his glorious Sidex surfboard, which, if I surfed, that would be the surfboard. That is a sick surfboard. And he's not bad. He's kind of doing it, but then suddenly he wipes out, and something's wrong with his foot. I don't think this is really explained, but he's just crying for help. He's like, something was wrong with my foot.
It cramps.
Okay, yeah, maybe just cramped, but it's making him die. This foot cramp. And a big wave is coming. It's a big wave. It's not the big wave, but it's a big wave. And Ash is hurt. Wave. He's kind of head down in the water at this point. It's pretty serious. Swoops in, though, before Ash is going to be turned to cream corn by the wave. The old man and the Pikachu, the old man that we saw before with the purple hair, swoops in. They've got this glorious red surfboard. They're both on the surfboard, and they're saying surfing terms kind of while they're surfing. They're like,
it's great.
I don't even remember them, but he's like, Pikachu, make sure you got the hang 10 from the.
I wrote him down.
Oh, you wrote him down. Let's hear it.
He goes, Puka, pipeline, Puka, shoot the girl.
Shoot the girl, Puka.
Shoot the girl.
Puka's the name of the Pikachu, the older Pikachu.
Yeah. And before this, when Ash is not able to surf, I found it funny. Misty says, I guess Ash must be practicing his wipeouts, right, Togepi? And Togepi agrees. Togepi is like a baby. I don't think Togepi knows what's going on, and Misty is using Togepi as her own little echo chamber.
As all parents do.
Yep.
Am I right? Come on, I would do that too. I would be use them as the cheapest audience.
This purple hair man and Puka come surfing in. They grab Ash, save him. He wakes up for a bit, but passes out after seeing this Pikachu from the back. And that's all he sees. He wakes up in a bed at this purple hair man's house. We learn his name is Victor.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Victor a lot. I think he's a fun character. He also, for some reason, reminds me of Tom Selleck.
Yeah, no, he does. I mean, mustache,
the voice,
and it's kind of the age that you think of too when you think of Tom Selleck is old. He's still alive, right?
Yep,
but he's pretty old, I think. But you think of that sort of kind of 40, Magnum PI, right?
Yeah, but he is 78.
There you go.
He's getting up there.
Mm-hmm. So Victor is saying, don't thank him, thank Puka.
Thank Puka.
You think this name Puka, he was like, Pikachu. He just pronounced Pikachu
it's
wrong.
Pikachu.
Yeah, was it a Pikachu?
Is that one of them Pokemans from the Nintendos?
Is that one of them Pokachus with that thunder built?
Yeah, he introduces himself. He's Victor. Pikachu goes out to meet Puka on the cliff, and this is a sweet moment. I loved this.
Mm-hmm.
Pikachu's meeting his elder. Very adorable. Of course, Team Rocket has to be here and mess everything up, and they're in the Gyarados sub again. They're gonna go after Pikachu. Both Pikachu.
They're seeing double. They've got them through the periscopes. They set their eyes on two Pikachus. Steal one, get one free. That's the deal of the day, according to James.
If you steal them, aren't they both free?
I think that's the joke, Kellan.
I don't think so. I think it's just James being dumb.
Oh, okay. Well, they'll double their salary, they think, with two Pikachus. 2-week vacay. Everything comes in twos this episode.
And then Misty is trying to put Togepi down for a nap, which I found weird. Because, we've never seen this from Togepi. Togepi needs to nap?
Yeah, Togepi is an actual toddler this episode.
Yeah.
Togepi is a human toddler.
I think they threw this in here to explain why Misty doesn't have Togepi throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
during the big wave moments.
I like this shot though because she's sitting there with the coffee. And how good does coffee look in an anime aesthetic?
Fantastic.
There's just something about coffee in anime that's Oh damn, coffee's
Looks
dope.
wonderful.
Yeah, it looks so good. It's nothing fancy. It's just like a little picture of a coffee, but like coffee in an anime aesthetic, very nice, very nice.
And so we get some backstory now. Victor has had Puka for 20 years. He didn't catch it like normal. Puka came to him from the sea, and then we flashback. Victor's sitting around the beach when a Pikachu comes surfing in on a piece of driftwood and jumps into Victor's arms. And we don't really notice it until it jumps into Victor's arms, but this Pikachu is tiny.
Oh,
it's so cute. He's like a baby Pikachu, and I love it. And I want to
grown up a lot in those 20 years. It
and
definitely
I want to forfeit all mortal possessions to it.
It's got glowing blue eyes. So
yeah, that's weird.
He's definitely from the desert planet Arrakis from the Dune series, where the Fremen have glowing blue eyes from being exposed to the spice for too long. That is exactly what's happening to this Pikachu. The spice must flow.
I've got a theory about this Pikachu, but we'll hit it later.
Yeah, we'll hit it later. Get there. Yeah, and I'm guessing yours doesn't have to do with Dune, but so we'll get that out of the way. Yeah,
but it's a mysterious Pikachu. It can feel the waves in its body, sense when a big wave is coming. So they've surfed every big wave in the last 20 years. And so the gang looks at all the pictures he has on the wall. There's a picture of him 20 years ago, from 40 years ago, and then another one from, I believe, 40 years ago with Jan.
Yes, he met
the legendary
Jan the man, the legendary Jan.
And they get more backstory. Everyone wanted to be like Jan, including Victor. And then they get a long, long flashback sequence of Victor wiping out over and over again. And Jan could seemingly sense the waves too. He was waiting for something.
Jan looks like Patrick Swayze with a ponytail. He looks like Patrick Swayze from Point Break.
I don't know Patrick Swayze enough to be able to confirm or deny.
So you'll just go with it. Thank you.
So I'll just go with it, yeah.
He is definitely Patrick Swayze's character from Point Break, who also is obsessed with riding a big wave. Thank you.
Yeah, he was waiting for one big thing, and then one day, Humungadunga came on out. And that was the day Jan rode to the top of that wave, planted the flag at the top of that spire, and became a legend. He then gave his surfboard to Victor and left to surf the world.
Without his surfboard. He uses these nice like watercolor stills, kind of like back in the Magmar, when they did Magmar like that. Yeah. To tell this story. It's definitely impactful. Yeah, I like those a lot.
And then 20 years later, Victor himself went up against Humungadunga when he came back, and he failed horribly.
Oh, and he wanted to quit surfing at that point.
It dejected him terribly. He never wanted to surf again. And this is when this flashback connects with the old flashback, because this is the moment he's sitting on the beach and Puka comes to him surfing on a little piece of driftwood. And Puka is what reinvigorated his love of surfing. Now, my theory is that Puka is Jan.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I thought they were going to straight up say that.
Yeah,
I was actually really surprised that they did not explain what Puka is. Because the timing of it all, he comes from the sea, is the same ability of Jan, that he could like sense the big waves, apparently.
The only thing I was hoping to see that would basically confirm my theory is Puka has those piercing blue eyes. Jan has brown eyes, unfortunately.
Yeah, the blue eyes thing, I don't know what that's about.
Like, no clue.
He's like a supernatural Pikachu. Yeah, I thought they would maybe tie it together by saying Jan died at some point, and then it's like he's reincarnated as a surfing Pikachu.
No, I think he metamorphosized into Pikachu.
You think he literally turned
It's literally Jan. He got hit with some like beam that Bill made or something.
Right, the Bill beam. Gotcha.
The Bill beam.
Bill, use Bill beam.
And so, since that day, they have conquered every wave except for Humungadunga. And Ash encourages him. He's like, yeah, you can do it. I believe in you. And he's like, thanks, Ash.
I like your impression.
I like the way he talks. It's like deep and slow and very enunciative. Great.
It's more cowboy than surfer, but it works.
Yeah. And so, interrupting the story, we hear screams from the Pikachu. Team Rocket have them in their sub's grasp. And they do the motto, atop a geyser. The only difference
they're
in this
rising
motto,
up a spray of water. Yeah.
only difference in this motto is James adds make it double dudes. And that was it. No real try there.
No.
So they do that. They drop back down into the sub and drag the Pikachu in with them. Our Pikachu, tries to shock their way out of the capture capsule, but again, doesn't work. They like using these glass capsules a lot these days.
Oh, yeah. So they got the 2 Pikachus in one capsule. That's the 2-for-1 treatment really going on. And then the Team Rocket sub goes deep. They're hanging into deep water to get away from the gang. There's eyes in the dark, though.
And a bunch of Gyarados swim out and attack them. I believe it's James remembers that he read once Gyarados travel to shallow water once a year to lay their eggs and are very aggressive and do not want to be disturbed.
I thought for a second his point was that the Gyarados were going to want to fuck the Gyarados. Yeah. Oh no, this is a mating ritual. We're the hottest Gyarados.
But so they try to leave by ascending to the surface very slowly. But the Gyarados fire off a bunch of hyper beams, and the gang see the sub fly out of the ocean and break apart, sending Team Rocket blasting off again, and both the Pikachu fly out of the capsule. This is the last we will see of Team Rocket until the very, very end, but they're done with the plot of this episode. They're gone.
Yeah, they're kind of incidental. They're background noise.
Yeah, it's just to cause a little bit of, whoa.
Yeah, let's stir the pot a little. Stir the pot, yeah.
And so Ash gets Bulbasaur to Vine Whip his Pikachu to safety, leaving Puka to drown in the water and be
Ash
lost
has
at sea
a cold heart. He has sentenced Puka to death.
But no, Victor throws the surfboard out for Puka to grab onto and then jumps in after it. And the waves are starting to get really heavy, so the gang doesn't want him doing that. They're scared for him. They head back to shore. And this is when Puka starts to glow real heavy. Humungadunga is on the horizon.
Big glow senses a heavy flow. Humungadunga is here.
And so Jenny warns everyone to evacuate the beach and get to high ground. I thought these surfers would go, try to surf this thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why they were here.
Yeah, wasn't there so many people coming for Humungadunga?
Yeah.
But then they're basically now that we're here, Humungadunga's kind of scary. Well, nature should not be fucked with, you know?
It's like when kids are so confident, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna ride Space Mountain, and they get to Disney World and they see Space Mountain, and they're like,
they just instantly shit their pants.
No, exactly. Thank you. I'm good. Exactly. And that totally would have been me. I did not like fast rides when I was
No, I'm not into that either.
The gang is watching from this higher ground, and they're watching for Victor, and they see him
on top,
at the top of the wave, atop Humungadunga, to the kick-ass. Ooh, the electric guitar riff comes blasting in, and this is so good.
I wrote down exactly here. I wrote that Kellan is going to say this music rips ass.
It does rip ass. So, okay, I've been doing a little bit of, I don't know if I would call it research on the side.
Introspection.
Introspection, sure. Been listening to these songs that I like and trying to figure out why I enjoy them so much in these moments, so I can put a name on it. This music is a composition of the gym theme, not the gym leader battle theme, the theme from inside the gyms, the buildings in the games.
Oh, okay.
So if I refer to the electric guitar gym theme, this is the one I'm talking about. It kicks ass. I love it.
And it's a melody from Red and Blue, but composed with electric guitars and synths
and stuff.
Right?
Yeah. And so I just love this song, because it's always used in a badass moment.
Oh,
it's either this character.
It's a climax song.
Yeah, it's either this character is down and out, but then they rise to the top immediately and they reinvigorate themselves and they kick ass, or it's like we saw last week with the Mr. Mime. They're facing off against Team Rocket. Things seem a little bleak, but then someone jumps in and takes their rightful spot in kicking Team Rocket's fucking asses.
Yeah, someone rises to the occasion. It's about facing your goals head on, being your true self, and the song really owns that.
Especially if it goes on long enough. There's this little flute I think it's a flute. There's a little flute section where it's like do 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 or something like that. That was a horrible reinterpretation.
I was banging my head to it. You can't see it, but I was like, hell yeah. Flutes,
but if it goes if it goes into the little flute section, it's always that lull of encouragement. And you're doing this. You can do it. You can continue to kick ass. And then it goes back into the sweet electric guitars, which is, yeah, I am kicking your ass.
Hell
and
yeah.
It's just, it's so good. Anyway, that song comes on when they see Victor riding atop this wave. And it's badass. He jumps from the wave and plants his flag at the top of this rock spire right next to Jan.
Right next to Jan.
Victor and Puka have conquered Humungadunga. And
Humungadunga's
so
their
good.
bitch. They surf down to safety. Humungadunga then goes on to destroy the beach, causing millions of dollars of property damage.
But he safely surfs into shore. And then, as a bit of a throwback to earlier in the episode, we didn't cover it in detail, but during his whole flashback sequence, after Jan conquered Humungadunga, he noticed Victor looking at him in awe. And so Jan goes up to him and looks him in the eyes and says, "You can do it too." And then that's when he gives him the surfboard. And so Victor sees this group of young surfers, goes up to them and looks them in the eye and says the same thing. "You can do it too." And they didn't show it explicitly, but I do like to think he gave the surfboard to one of those surfers as a passing along in the next generation of surfers. And I loved this moment. I thought this was great.
That's totally
it's very
what it is.
Emotional, inspiring, beautiful stuff. This is the kind of stuff I love. And this is one of the reasons I love this episode so much. It's just that whole sequence.
That's pretty cool. So it's not necessarily about, the Pokemon lore exactly. It's just that it's an earnest and honest story about a man's life.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, he's old. He has done what he always wanted to do. He conquered that final mountain, and now he's ready to pass on his knowledge and skills to the next generation to hopefully create someone else that could be a surfing legend. And I just love that. The whole generational loop.
Yeah.
The positive generational loop. I like that.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. He's definitely seeing himself in the world, what he puts into the world, and yeah, there's a soul to that. There's a real maybe that's another way of putting it too. There's a soul to this episode.
A lot of soul. And it comes in with the last narrator basically summing up the episode with, "You're never too late for some dreams to come true." And I thought, that's a great way to cap off that message of the episode.
That is the message of the episode, yeah.
It's great. And then we go back to Team Rocket, and they're in their half-broken sub being circled by Gyarados, and that's it. But I don't give a shit about that.
Surrounded by the Gyarados mating orgy, waiting for Humungadunga to save them. They're like, there'll be another Humungadunga in a minute or two.
In maybe a week?
Maybe 20 years, Meowth? Come on.
I love how they show Team Rocket always in these dire situations. We never see them get out of them. How the hell did they get out of this?
The next episode.
Yeah.
But they'll be getting tortured by underground mole people, or they'll be sacrificed to an Aztec god,
I want to see this one where they're tortured by underground mole people.
It's always something like that, being torn apart by Martians. It's always crazy. I made all of those up, but but yeah, they're always on the verge of death.
Oh man. But that is the episode. That is the Pi-Kahuna.
Right, so literary hour. I want to talk this one through.
Baywatch.
Sure. I mean, you can pick beach stuff. I like that.
There's no slow motion women running down beaches though, so I don't know if it's that accurate.
David Hasselhoff.
Oh yeah, they were all sex appeal.
They were all
right?
slow mo.
All of them.
Yeah,
it was for everybody.
The theme, I like how you capped off the theme, never too late for some dreams to come true. I was kind of digging into what are themes and what's a theme in literature that has to do with really sticking to a goal. And one of the things that kind of jumped out at me is that, at least in the classics, how they show being super focused on a goal for a long time is usually tied to obsession. And it's actually usually not necessarily a good thing. So the literary book I'll call out, and I don't think I've brought it up before, but maybe I have in some of the first episodes, because it's easy to reference, would be Moby Dick. Because that's all about how Ahab gets so obsessed within his journey, his adventure of chasing down the white whale, Moby Dick. it's a revenge story, but it's about an obsession, and it's really about how like our goals can consume us to the point where we can make sacrifices, we can stop seeing the big picture, and we can really just caught up into it. And Moby Dick is a really interesting metaphor for a lot of things like creative processes, and other sort of journeys that we put ourselves through as we go into it, so holistically. This though is a much more positive spin on this, and this is the part I'm having troubles rectifying, is if a lot of classic literature shows this is so negative though, do you see Victor's journey here as negative? You obviously loved it, so he devotes his whole life to surfing. Is that an obsession, or is that just being true to yourself?
I think the difference is that with like Moby Dick, he is straight up obsessed with the whale. But something like this, it is, while surfing is something that he does like all the time, it's not necessarily like he genuinely could stop when he wanted to. He wasn't sure.
That's the classic addict.
That's you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
You said the thing.
he wasn't very confident about Humungadunga. Like he wasn't obsessed to the point that he was going out surfing to be able to conquer this wave.
Well, this is where I there's a lot unsaid in this episode, right? So Victor doesn't have a family. Like, what has Victor sacrificed for the vision of Humungadunga?
I mean, he's also old. Maybe they're all dead.
Maybe he has killed his family to the rain gods in order to conquer Humungadunga. Maybe Victor is a raging psychopath. His closet is full of real skeletons. Wow.
Maybe
breaking news.
I mean, there was a time in his life where he was uninspired to surf, and it was something else coming along and reinvigorating a love. Like it's not an obsession, it's a love. Think there's a difference
I think
there.
It is a very cool spin on that. And this is where, I couldn't really think of one that is just like, I'm sure there's got to be some good comparisons. But I was getting so caught up in that classics view of this that I kind of was having a hard time thinking of one that is based on not obsession, but love. Just throughout this, I thought of a book I really liked is called My Name is Asher Lev, about a kid from a very devout Jewish family in New York who he becomes an artist, but his love for art puts him at odds for his love with religion, because his parents are like extremely devout religious, and in the art community he would have to do things like draw crucifixions, which put him at like major odds with his religion. It is told through that his view of art as could have seen as an obsession from others. I do think it is about love, and it's about loving himself also, right? That's what when you love things like that, like surfing, like an art, like something like that, like writing or whatever it is you put your heart into, that's about loving yourself, right?
Yeah, I think Victor in a way is kind of like the everyman. It's not a Moby Dick obsession. It's a goal, it's a dream he's always wanted to achieve, and he's willing to put in that work to achieve that dream. But he's not gonna like kill people to get there.
Yeah, he's not.
I think it's relatable.
I think he might have killed Team Rocket. But who wouldn't?
We think that every episode.
Yeah.
I think he's a relatable character in that. And he wants to achieve this dream, has kind of lost confidence due to his age, but he's realized, you know what, that's nothing. I can do it, and I'm going to do it.
I can do it. I'll put my back into it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I'm glad that, this wasn't the cleanest literary hour, but that was the kind of discussion I wanted
This
to
is
spark.
The most insight I've ever put into literary hour.
Well, you can do it. I appreciate your insights. That's what it's all about. It's about thinking through themes. It's about having fun with the ideas. So that's great. Yeah. Let's kick it to 4-pour.
Look at that. An actual discussion.
Discussion. Conversations on To Kill A Delibird. Couldn't have ever guessed.
All right. Ooh, first category for the Pi-Kahuna is the plot. I liked it. It's full.
I mean, you're obviously a huge fan. Yeah.
It's the full story of Victor. We get it all in one episode. It's inspirational. It's emotional. It's fun. I'm giving it an 8.
Okay, I'm gonna say a 7. You know what? And I probably would have gone lower, but you've been such a good salesperson that I gotta at least go a 7, because there's a lot of loose ends, and I think that as plot is like a technical concept, it's missing some things, like what the deal is with Puka.
Yeah.
If they would have like Yeah, if they would have rounded out the edges on the Jan Puka connection, they didn't even need to straight out say it, but just like even hinting a bit more to the point where it felt a little bit more resolved. I think
Puka,
that would have gone somewhere.
If Puka at the end of the episode, after they conquered Humungadunga, like re-metamorphosized into Jan, and he was like, I knew you could do it. You did it, Victor. Congratulations. That would have been a 10 right there. Easy.
Wait, and then he's like a ghost and he disappears, just like Patrick Swayze in Ghost.
It would have been so good. You can't tell me that would have been incredible TV.
Putting a full circle on my Patrick Swayze analogy.
That would have been such good TV. You can't tell me otherwise. All right. Category number 2.
He fully metamorphosizes back into Jan and kisses Victor firmly on the lips.
Category number 2 is Ash Moron moments.
His foot. My foot. No, that was just he wanted to surf.
Immediately after hearing this legend, being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a good surfer." I think that was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
There's really nothing.
That was just kind of Ash-like.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, an awful lot of this episode is taken up by Jan's story, so there isn't that much room for stupid stuff. I wish that this was last episode so we could talk about a slowbro, because that was incredible.
That was a good one. Yeah, that's like a 3 for me.
1. Yeah, no, weak on that.
0.75. Oh,
do we have a category for like amazing names of things? I don't think we do. But Humungadunga's a 10. If I ever have kids, the firstborn Humungadunga. That's the name.
That you saying that actually reminds me, we do have a little bit to discuss in terms of the forepaw.
Okay.
We got a comment over this last week on the YouTube version of the Mime Machine. I'm gonna just read this out and then we can discuss it. From one Alex Riker says, "Do we have forepaws for Professor Oak and Ash's mom moments / situations that point towards them hooking up, or the Pokemon sounds / noises in an episode, or the gender fluidity represented in episodes, since Jesse and James in particular regularly break typical gender stereotypes?" So I think we can take those one at a time. Unfortunately, I do like the Professor Oak mom moments. I think they're too few and far between, though.
Yeah, I don't know about calling that out specifically. Yeah, first of all, thank you for the comments. Definitely love this one. Some stuff to chew on here. So we do have one for Ash's mom. We don't have one about Oak though. Like, Oak,
well, no, the suggestion was.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm ripping it apart.
Okay, gotcha.
I agree with you. I don't think we'll put one just for the romantic implications, but we could. That reminds me, we could have a nod to Oak somehow.
We could.
Yeah, we'll take.
We might have to think about that one a little more
off the podcast, but yeah.
And then there's Pokemon sounds and noises in the episode, so that
I kind of like that one.
I kind of like that one.
I kind of like that one, especially like when they get you doing impressions. So I'm down with a Pokemon sounds one. Yeah.
Okay, so we can do that. I think we may have to limit that to the non-gang Pokemon. Not the gang's Pokemon. So,
or like of the new
featured Pokemon and stuff.
Pokemon sounds.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's just a lot of Pikachu
featured
and
Pokemon tastes. So we could do featured Pokemon sounds.
Yeah, we may parse that around a little more to iron out the details. And then there's the gender fluidity represented in episodes, since Jesse and James, in particular, regularly break typical gender stereotypes.
Right. I think this is explicitly asking for something that sort of commends, like, hopefully some of the more progressive parts. Like we've called out before, how like when James wears women's clothes, like he owns it, and he looks great in it. So there is sort of like I don't know what the word for this would be though, but it's like great. Yeah, and Jesse too. When Jesse dresses like Napoleon, I lose my mind. I love when she dresses like that.
We could do the ball that says breaking gender norms.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm down with that.
That'd be a fun one.
Cool.
Because that leaves some room for critical thinking too. Whereas like, this is a 90s show and there's lots of like very kind of campy gendered stuff that is like a little bit ham-fisted. But occasionally there's stuff that makes you go, oh, like that was kind of neat. So
Yeah. So that is 2 categories added from 1 comment. Well done.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you, Alex. Right? Was it the
Yep.
commenter? Thank you, Alex.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, and again, we'll parse over the details probably offline, but in general, very, very good stuff. And that is this week.
That is this week on TCAD. We survived. We went through the gauntlet of crazy satanic newspaper articles. Then into the evolution solution, the opposite of weird right-wing newspaper articles. Evolution. And then finally, we surfed ourselves to greatness with Patrick Swayze.
And Tom Selleck.
And Humungadunga, my child.
All right, you want to know what we're doing next week?
Yes, I do. What's next?
Next week is a very special week. It's going to be a good week. We're not looking at 2 episodes. We're not looking at 3 episodes. We're not even looking at 1 episode. What we're looking at is...
Say it. What is it?
Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back.
That's next week. Oh my God.
That's next week.
I'm not ready at all. This is blowing my mind. Wow, that'll be a full episode. Clear your calendars, folks.
Yeah,
it's
gonna
the
be a
big
good
one.
one.
It's the Humungadunga of TCAT episodes. Comes once every 20 years.
I don't think it'll be 20 years before we do the next movie.
It'll be 20 years before we do Mewtwo again.
Yeah. We'll do the Mewtwo movie remake in 20 years.
In 20 years. There you go.
Yeah.
I've never seen that remake.
Me neither.
Let's keep that way.
All right, that's it for today. That's what we're doing next week.
Perfect.
Join us.
Yeah, shout us out in the comments. We're on the Hydra Leech YouTube channel. You can leave comments there. You can also reach us at tokilla.delibird@gmail.com. You can find us everywhere fine podcasts are downloaded. Please leave a review, like all of that social media garbage. Love the engagement. Intro and outro music is 80 Synthwave by Alexi Action. I'm Graham. That's Kellan.
Yeah.
Surf's up, dude. Humungadunga. We like to talk about Patrick Swayze and Alf. Anything else?
That's the podcast.
That's the podcast in a nutshell.
It's Patrick Swayze and Alf. That's it. It's not Pokemon.
Our best friends, Patrick Swayze and Alf. This sounds like exactly like me describing a dream. I'd be like, and Patrick Swayze and Alf were there, and then Neo from The Matrix traded me a Charizard.
The 4 of us really make a ragtag group of heroes.